Hello and welcome to all of you. This is Roto RX, your fantasy prescription. I, of course, am Andy Singleton. You can just find on Twitter. Sir, your name?
Tehol Beddict, Lord Beddict, Elder God chosen.
Razzball legend, Elder God legend.
We need to hire somebody to do these introductions to give it the what it truly deserves. Have you seen A Knight's Tale and that Paul Bettany guy in his first kind of big breakout role with the legendary Heath Ledger, R.I.P., when he would come up and introduce the knight when he comes out? I need one of those guys. So do you.
Yeah, we need like Michael Buffer, Bruce Buffer, something like that. Well, anyway, listen, last episode we forgot to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day. So to all our veterans, to all our current military personnel, to all America, a sincere belated happy Memorial Day. I know you probably were partaking in many a barbecue and festivities, so I hope you were well, and I'm glad to see you look the same, healthy and spry and ready to go. There is a ton of stuff to talk about in the fantasy baseball world this week. Things happening as we're speaking. There's no way possible we're going to get to everything, but we'll try to get as much as we can done. I want to give, as always, a tip of the cap to Fantasy Assembly, to, as I mentioned, Razzball, to the Reddit subreddit of fantasy baseball. We're going to have Fox Mulder back on at the end of the show with the minor league report. I also want to extend a thanks to Fake Teams and to Today's Knuckleball. So a couple other sites that are friends of ours. And let's just jump right into it. As I mentioned, there are things happening up to the moment. So right before we went on, King Felix, your boy, was sent on the DL, retroactive to the 28th. Yes, James Paxton was just recalled from AAA. So that is breaking news. Marlon Byrd was just suspended for 162 games for his second PED suspension. My boy, Jacob deGrom, just hurled a gem against the White Sox, shutting them down, struck out another 10. So as I mentioned, things are happening fast and furious. Anything going on in your neck of the woods that you want to mention before I start getting into some specifics here?
No, not a whole lot. Just another Mariner down. We just keep grinding and winding and blinding and killing and spilling and trilling, and we just do what we do. People going on the DL every day. Marte, then Martin, now King Felix. Doesn't matter. No, we keep trucking along. We swept aside a sweep from the lowly Minnesota Twins. I don't know what happened there, but it doesn't matter. We come back and we start banging out 18, 20, 25 runs against the San Diego Padrones like it was nothing the other day. I'm not really tripping about anything, man.
The Padrones, I like that. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Martin Leonys because we kind of closed the last show with him, and I was saying I couldn't trust him. You were saying to ride him out during this current hot streak, and as you just mentioned, he's already hit the DL. The disabled list is going to be a recurring theme on today's show. There seems to be a lot of guys that we're counting on in fantasy that have been hitting the DL.
The day I picked him up, as I assumed, I cursed him. He hit the DL the day I finally picked him up.
Yeah, well, you said that. I said don't trust him. And sure enough, listen to us again, because had you listened, you would have avoided him and you would have avoided this headache. But Martin is on the DL, and sure enough, you could probably just let him go at this point if you were still holding. A guy that did just come back from the DL that I was excited about, I've been waiting for, actually two guys. But the first was the positive news. That was Eduardo Rodriguez, Boston starter, finally came back. He faced the Orioles in Baltimore, which is not the friendliest confines for pitchers. His line was 6 innings, 3 Ks, no walks, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, and 61 of his 89 pitches went for strikes. So, pleased with what you saw from Mr. Erod last night in Baltimore.
Yeah, definitely, man. Against a tough Orioles lineup, arguably the best lineup in baseball. You got to give it to him there. I don't really, I'm not his biggest fan. Last year was kind of blah to me. This was kind of blah. 3 Ks. I mean, the velocity's down a couple miles an hour. Obviously, he's working his way back from injury. I don't really have a problem with that. But I mean, he's got the Red Sox offense behind him, so the wins and the quality starts. I think that's going to be there for him. I just, who do you like this guy better or Junior Guerra, the 30-year-old legend for the Brewers who gets you more Ks and whatever, but doesn't probably going to get you the wins? Like, who do you prefer out of those two?
Well, personally, you mentioned Rodriguez's velocity. He was averaging about 92 on his fastball. He only had the 3 Ks, but he's a control guy. The fact that he had 0 walks is the positive sign I'm looking at. Boston is like desperate for somebody to be a number 2, number 3 starter for them. That lineup is not changing. These guys just keep raking everybody from 1 to 9 in that lineup. So I think the wins are going to be there as long as he can keep the ball in the park, which he seems to be doing. I'm not too concerned about the Ks. I want them bad because this is not an arm-related injury. I know that kind of sounded a little weird, but this is not your reaction's not helping. This is not an arm-related injury. This was all due to his knee. So once he starts getting that confidence back, I think you'll see the K numbers increase slightly. What are we hoping for? 5 or 6 an outing? Would that be enough to make you a happy man?
Yeah, I think he's definitely ownable. I've definitely got some guys who are worse than that. I'll get sucked into these upside guys, but he seems a little more solid. And he's still got upside because he's younger. So, yeah, he's definitely ownable for sure.
Okay. Well, the other guy I was alluding to that I was, waiting all season for, finally came back last night and quickly exited. Brad Boxberger. We've talked about him on the show before. Brutal news. There's still no update as of the recording of this, but it's all speculation at this point that he will, in fact, go back on the DL and his season may, in fact, be over. Good news for Alex Colomé owners, whoever picked him up, because he's been phenomenal. But horrible news if you've been waiting for Boxberger. If you listen to us in the last couple of weeks, you may have even traded for a guy like Boxberger. You may have been keeping him on your DL this whole time in lieu of some other guys you may have been able to pick up or hold on to. So there's really no way to predict this happening. I'm stunned. I'm mortified. I'm blown away by this news. Do you have any thing you want to add and share your condolences with me?
R.I.P. to Boxberger. It's been fun. You got your spot taken while you were gone by somebody who's a superior player, probably a superior man, probably superior in every way to you. You were going to get the job. I don't think you were ever going to get that job back anyway. Or go back to the bullpen or wherever, or 6th, 7th inning, wherever you belong, and maybe see you again next year. I don't know. Maybe you'll become relevant again someday. If somebody else gets hurt, maybe you'll get a shot again. But until then, nice knowing you. Goodbye.
Should Boxberger be weary or leery of Uncle Ricola? Should he be worried? Watching out? Keeping tabs on Greinke's uncle?
Yeah. I think he should, man. I think he's probably already had a taste of Mrs. B. I think that's a wrap. He's done in every way possible. I'm done with the guy. I have no interest in the guy. I wasn't holding him anywhere. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Well, another guy, former Red Sox at one point, Rich Hill. Wonder. All of a sudden, this guy is like reborn. This is the Arrieta Light. I called Tomlin that possibly last week, but this is the real Arrieta Light. 2.25 ERA, 8-3 record, 10.4 Ks per 9. The guy's dominant. The only reason I'm even mentioning him is because he was missing a start due to some groin illness, or possibly might be missing his next start due to some uncomfortableness in his groin. I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about, but I just want to make mention of Mr. Rich Hill being a 36-year-old. Injuries linger a little longer than with youngsters such as yourself. Mm-hmm. Anything to add to Hill? No, that's it.
Okay. It's incredible. It's one of the crazier things I've ever seen. I mean, maybe I wouldn't go that far, but this is nuts. I mean, the guy was a big-time prospect way back in the day. I mean, if you look up his numbers, I think his best season ever, he had like 6 wins or something like that. I mean, and this was very early. This is like 10 years ago or something. It's garbage. and bought every other chance he's had. He's been hurt or not been able to do anything. Oakland has to flip this guy immediately before this all comes to shambles. Are they going to get what they should get for somebody balling like this? Probably not. But you got to take what you can get because he's probably one of the best available trade assets on the market for a contender right now. Boston probably wishes they still had the dude right now in the bargain bin, but instead they'd rather pay people like Panda and Rusney Castillo. They'd rather just burn money than give this guy a minimum contract and watch him whip and watch him deal. But no. But yeah, shout out to Rich Hill gang. He's killing it.
You should watch him whip. Does he nay also?
I think he does.
All right. We're going to move on to a doctor report. We're going to bring on our pappy. But real quick, Miss Boxberger. It's just the name is a giveaway. Right off the bat. I didn't want to let that one escape. Anyway, we're talking about big names, injuries, all that kind of stuff. Troy Tulowitzki is now on the DL. One of your rebound candidates. News, good, bad, indifferent. We don't know yet. Let's see what Pappy has to say. The good fantasy doctor, medical surgeon, Selene Parekh. Go ahead and cue that one up, sir.
Oh, it's coming. Daddy's coming. Oh, he's in the car. He's in the Benzo. That hair.
Hey guys, Dr. Selene Parekh, the fantasy doctor here. Blue Jays shortstop Troy Tulowitzki is out with a quad strain. Now the quad muscle group are a group of 4 muscles that live behind your femur bone, also known as the thigh bone. And when you strain that, it can be problematic, especially for the athlete who's running or cutting it and jumping. There are a variety of different grades of your quad strains, all the way from grade 1 to grade 3. And depending on the grade, you can miss anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. Now, he sat out Wednesday and Thursday of last week, but then tried playing Friday, going 0 for 4 at the plate. And that's bad news that he was unable to perform and ended up on the DL list after that performance. So I think that he's out for 4, maybe up to 6 weeks, but probably more along the lines of a 4-week time frame. During that timeline, look for him to rest, use anti-inflammatories, and have the trainers working with him extensively, trying to ease up that muscle, get it to heal, and get the flexibility and strength back into his thighs so that he can perform when he comes back. We may see him, at the 4-week mark, right before All-Star break, or immediately afterwards. But that's my timeline as I estimate it.
So that is not as discouraging as I had seen some reports or I was thinking. Nevertheless, it is kind of an extended period. So if he was somebody that you were counting on, whether it be a shortstop, a middle infielder, utility, even bench depth, you got to look elsewhere. And that elsewhere would be his replacement, Mr. Darwin Barney. Have you added Barney anywhere? He's getting swept up in most of the leagues I'm in.
Really?
Have you even begun to look at him yet? Well, I mean, think about it. He's going to get the at-bats at shortstop in that lineup. And he's proven in his career he can be somewhat of a serviceable, high 200s hitter. He's not going to give you much else, but if he's going to get the at-bats, isn't there room to think there's some meat on the bones for him to pick?
No, first of all, I'm stacked at that spot in every league I'm in because that's how I do things. Second of all, no power, no speed. It's like a chick with no ass and no tits. You know what I'm saying? What are we looking for here? You see, I mean, two homers, 2 steals with a 371 BABIP. So he's already getting lucky enough as it is. I got no faith in this guy at all. I mean, this guy's gonna drop like a sack of kittens in the river or whatever you want to call it. This dude. What's interesting about this guy? No power, no speed. You might as well find me. Is Brendan Ryan available on waivers, or did he just get? No.
I'm glad you mentioned all that. As of right now, he's still not shortstop eligible. He's only got 4 starts at short, but including today. So by the time this airs and you're watching this, he should be eligible in some leagues with 5. But the reason I'm glad you said all that is because I agree. I don't think he can shoulder the load of being an everyday player. So while he is currently hot right now, certainly worth, taking a shot, especially, if you did have Tulo and you have an immediate need at middle infield or short. But yeah, I don't think long term is the answer. So he's somebody actually. If somebody else is looking for him in your league and you happen to be the guy to pick him up, offer him up right now. Get rid of him while you can still get something for him. Kind of like what you're hoping the Yays do with Rich Hill. But would you agree with that assessment? Try to get rid of Barney if you could, or at least add him if you can. Hoping somebody else would want him.
If you're desperate, like if you're a Tulo owner and didn't have anybody else that could play the spot, yeah, sure, pick him up because he's in the great lineup, so he's going to probably score some runs. It's all going to be there for him. So yeah, I mean, if you are strictly a Tulo owner on your knees in desperation, willing to do just about anything to get a serviceable player in there, and I mean anything, then you do it. But other than that, I mean, if you got a spot to spare to pick him up and then try to deal him to the desperate dude at shortstop. I mean, if I'm the guy that lets Tulo, some other chump picks this guy up off waivers and then tries to trade him to me, I'm saying no. I'm riding with some other bum.
Well, unfortunately, some of our viewers might be Tulo owners based on recommendations they heard from the Seattle partner of this show. So they might be stuck. And it seems like you're mad I even mentioned Darwin Barney, but he is relevant at this point. So
okay,
there's that. I say if you got a spot, pick him up because somebody's going to want him. You'll see. A couple days from now, somebody will want him. Hyun Soo Kim. You familiar with this guy? I know you love your Asians. I know you were all gung-ho for Byung-ho. What are you going? You doing anything with Kim? He just started to finally get some regular playing time. He's hitting, I think, 360 on the season. He hit his first home run. He had a string of like 5 straight starts this week. And Buck Showalter, his manager, has finally said, I'm not a fool. If this guy's going to hit, I got to find a place for him. So what are you making of this guy?
Buck Showalter, not a fool. I like it. Look, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I love all Asians, men and women. Load up on that kimchi and let it fly. This guy's got a little bit of powwow. I think he hit like 18 over in Korea last year or whatever, which is, in American terms is like 5. So we can look forward to a few more homers from him. The average is insane right now, but so's the BAPIP for you stat geeks out there. 415. That's gonna go down. That's gonna drop definitely. I mean, I like the guy. I've read about Nick Markakis comparisons, whatever, and that's cool if you are a Nick Markakis fan, but I'm not. So ride it out now while you can. It's kind of like what I did with Perez last year. He was tight for a little bit, and then we know how that went. So, I mean, these are guys you ride out, and then you cut. Or if you can find someone dumb enough to trade you for them, you do it. Well, they're scorching hot. If not, you ride it out, enjoy, cut, bait, move on.
Well, here's the good news. He's 28, so he's kind of in that power peak prime that I like. He's a lifetime 316 hitter, and that's over 1,100 games. So it's not a fluke. And it might be Korea, yes, but Kang has now shown he can translate. Park has now shown that, his power can translate. So if Kim is showing a high average throughout his career, kind of the Ichiro thing, I believe it can translate. I think he can, hit it at this level and hit it in this league. It really came down to playing time for him. Lefty bat in Camden Yards. I'm all in on him. I just dropped Rasmus in one of my leagues to pick up Kim. Just to give you kind of some perspective. Go ahead.
Can I mention something real quick about my boy Jung-Ho Kang? Nobody was on this guy. Oh, he's in Korea. The power won't translate. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the raw numbers, analyzing them like a scientist 24 hours a day for a week straight, probably in my preseason Disgrace Delight list from 2015. Yes, I have a memory like an elephant. I remember everything. I never forget a face. Like a crow. Read about that, Google that. And I was the only one in America that basically said Kang is going to be real as shit. And he was signed as an absolute bargain bin basement for the Pirates. He got no respect, got no cap. Dude's a legend. I was the only one in America to say so. And I deserve something for that. Some kind of an award, maybe a medal, money, something.
We will bronze a package of ramen noodles and send it to you.
Mm.
Well, I guess I would be the one, so I don't know where the we is, but we'll figure out something. Kim, though, yeah, I think I don't know if he's going to be a legend. I think he will certainly be serviceable. I think you will see some power, start to some production of power, and the average I think is going to surprise you. So if you have an outfield spot, a utility spot, this guy's lingering. Make the dollar or the $0 claim right now before everybody else is jumping on him. Preliminarily, get in the boat. Let's bring the doctor back. Catcher is a very fickle position. One of my favorite guys over the last few years has been Salvador Perez because of his durability.
Can you tell some of our uneducated readers what fickle means? Some might be big-time Trump rally guys and not know what the word fickle means.
Well, they're watching, not reading. So we have to spell it out first. So Fickle. And basically, I just mean that he, the position is not the easiest to navigate through. You don't get many options, so it's not ripe with options. And Perez has been one of those guys that you can rely on because he's going to stay in the lineup and he's going to hit for a decent average. And his power was kind of peaking and starting to perform. Well, now he's on the DL.
Okay.
So what do you do? And what do we make of this?
I don't know.
Actually, he's not on the DL. He did not go on the DL. Let me refrain from saying that. He avoided the DL, but he's going to be out for about 10 days with a contusion.
That's what Daddy wants to tell me about. I'm looking for.
That's what I asked him to discuss with us. Is this going to be lingering and something we should be concerned about?
Right. Let's find out.
Salvador Perez had a mean collision last week, and if you saw the video, it was quite concerning that he may have had more serious damage to his leg. But it turns out that there are no structural damages to his knee per the MRI, and this looks like it's just going to be a quad hematoma or a bruise, a collection of blood from damage to the muscle in the muscle itself, causing pain and weakness. So look for him to be out maybe about 1 to 2 weeks, but that's really about it. He should bounce back pretty quickly, much more quickly than if he had a strain of the quad. But again, the good news is no damage to the knee itself, and so he should be back pretty quickly within the lineup in about 1 to 2 weeks. This is Dr. Selene Parekh, the Fantasy Doctor.
So let me get this straight. You want me to explain fickle when we're throwing words like hematoma around? Anyway, Sal Perez, good news. Hopefully you don't have to worry too much. But it brings me to an interesting point. What do you do if you have a need at catcher? There's really not a lot out there. What are you doing? The best three options I could find on average are Tyler Flowers, Herman, and David Ross. Any of those three jumping at you?
No. So if you were a true savant, you would have picked up Evan Gattis the second they said they were going to teach him to be a catcher again and get him back in that spot. That would make you a legend. Most of you probably aren't, so you probably didn't do that. Herman, yeah. I like that one. Got the power, so I like him a little bit. These guys are all garbage, man. Kept weak, man. I mean, how about the Mariners are crazy hot right now? How about plugging in Iannetta?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's really just streaming whatever's hot. I just picked up Tyler Flowers to, substitute for Perez this week while he's out, but it's not a comfortable position to be in if you don't have one of the guys is going to be in the lineup every day. So, mentioning this horrific injury with Chelsor Cuthbert, Cuthbert is in the lineup because Moustakas is out for the season now. So these Royals injuries are starting to pile up. I want to ask you about the Moustakas loss and the Cuthbert addition, but also real quick before we get into that, are you worried about the Royals and how much does this benefit your Mariners in the standings? And are the defending World Series champs in trouble?
Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. They're all dropping. We don't care out here in Seattle. We don't respect the Royals. How they've done what they've done with inferior talent is beyond me and any other scientist in the field. We don't understand it. They no longer have Cueto. They signed bums like Ian Kennedy and these losers that are just nothing to me. Lorenzo Cain is a legit star player. Moustakas finally last year, after everybody and their mama given up on the guy, finally produced last year and became something resembling the player we once thought he was going to be, and then was still kind of on track this year to be pretty much the same way. So that's devastating. Yes, it helps the Mariners. Yes, the Mariners are better. Yes, the Mariners have a better offense. Yes, they have a better pitching staff. What else is there to say? The closer is not as good. That's it. That's pretty much it, literally.
All right, let's not go crazy on a Mariners rant. I was giving you a little slack.
Yes.
Don't take the whole reel. Moustakas, though. You mentioned Moustakas. So he's gone. You know much about Chelsor Cuthbert, his replacement?
Yeah, I do. He's absolutely worthless as far as fantasy baseball is concerned. That's what I know about him. That's
okay.
What I know about him.
Well, can I play devil's advocate again then?
You can do whatever you want. It's your show, Big Dog. I'm just here.
No, this is our show, buddy. But I personally thought the same as you. But I've heard this guy's name, ballyhooed for a few years in the dynasty, circuits. So I wanted to dive a little deeper. And interestingly enough, he's still just 23, so there is still potential left. The last two seasons, one in AA, one in AAA, his average was 275, 10 homers, 50 RBIs, which in the first 25 games of this year at AAA, he had already accounted for. So he was on pace to quadruple those numbers. So there is reason to believe that there might be something there. Now, again, there is a big difference between AA, AAA, and the majors. However, again, as I mentioned, this guy is just 23, and he has shown that he can be kind of that 275-ish. We still don't know what the power potential is. Maybe he can get you 15 to 20. Maybe he can get you 60, 70 RBI. And again, this is a guy that's going to be getting the at-bats. He's going to be in the lineup. They have no viable other option at this point right now. Zobrist is not in town anymore to slide over to third or have some options or some versatility there. So I would say, if you're looking at him on your waiver wire and you have a need for third base, or you got a spot to add a player to kind of take a gamble on and take a flyer, he's definitely worth taking a flyer with. So that's my 2 cents. You can debate it if you want, Mr. Beddict, but if not, I want to move on to standings. We were just talking about Mariners. Now you can have the floor again with your Seattle team. I want to ask you who's real and who's not at this point. We're just a little past the quarter mark through the season. So if the season ended today, the playoffs will be in the American League: Boston, Kansas City, Texas, Seattle, and Baltimore. And in the National League, it'd be Washington, Chicago, San Fran, Pittsburgh, and the Mets. So any of these teams that you're not buying as playoff teams, or anybody that I didn't mention that you think can make a run and get back into the picture?
Who's phony? Who's fake? That's the type of people I hate. And, we know who's phonies out here. We know there's a lot of phonies. Actually, I think the Royals are going to fall off. I could call them a phony.
Okay.
They're losing some players. They don't have the pieces that they once did. I just don't like the team, and that's with Hosmer having a career year. I don't think they're going to win it all this year. Could they still make the playoffs? Obviously, because the White Sox are finally coming back to reality here. The White Sox need possibly another pitcher, but they mostly need Abreu to kind of wake up here.
Abreu, yeah.
Just wake up. I predicted a monster season for this guy, and it's embarrassing what he's kind of doing out here. I'm not sure. I'm not kind of what sure is going on. The Orioles are another team. The pitching staff to me is just disgusting, man. I have no faith in it. There's nothing there that makes me believe they could win a playoff series or even come close to it. All the other best teams in the league have legit pitchers at the top there. I don't see it for them at all. The lineup is so good that they might do something similar to what kind of like the Angels did a few years back, where the offense just cruises to a bit. But are they going to get it done in the end? No. And I would lean on them probably missing the playoffs because of the pitching staff. The Mariners, definitely for real. Look at the lineup. Look what's happening here. Paxton will come in and do fine. Not worried about Felix. If anything, it's good for him to have a couple days off. He's all good. I mean, other than that, everything to me looks like kind of as it should be. Obviously, the Phillies have come back to reality. They're down at 500. We all knew they were going to fall off like a bad bag of dope. It's happening. Don't worry about it. Everything else just looks chalk to me. Everything else looks like how I expected.
Yeah, I can't argue with what you said. The Dodgers, hopefully for their sake can make a case to find a way to edge in there, but I don't know who you drop out of there other than maybe, their division rival San Fran. So I would have to argue with you that, things look like they might stay the same way come October. So with all that being said, we're mentioning the division that the Twins play in, and they're getting kind of a reset in this, Act 2 of Byron Buxton being recalled once Danny Santana hit the DL. Max Kepler was just recalled when your boy Miguel Sano hit the DL. So now in, Act 2, do we see any difference from these baby Twins, or is it going to be more of the same? Are you expecting anything for the Buxton owners or even the Kepler owners in deeper leagues that they might show some consistency in what we've, kind of come to hope for them going back a few years now? Well, especially with the Byron Buxton, I should say.
Right. It's just gross, man. I mean, these guys have, they got Dozier, Plouffe, Buxton, Sano, Mauer, all this group of all these people that should be decent. I mean, the pitching staff's been trash, obviously. The bullpen's a mess. Buxton hasn't been as advertised, but he's young and he went down to AAA and he tore it up. He did what he's supposed to do. I think he's going to be much more successful this time around. I think he's going to stay. Danny Santana, let's be honest, he's a nobody. He doesn't belong up there. 10 steals, but yes, 6 caught stealing. So it's like, congratulations, you're about 60% in your steals. Like, way to go. Nothing else there. Buxton, I think he stays up. Unfortunately, just when the Twins were maybe starting to play a little better, Sano, the big dog who just got hot, goes to the freaking deal. It's just a nightmare season for them. Park is falling off majorly. I still think that's a team that's definitely going to start playing better here in the near future. I don't know if a managerial change is needed or what needs to happen there, but the talent's there, and I think they're definitely going to improve.
Okay. Well, I would like to introduce the doctor again. As I mentioned, DL, was going to be the theme of the show. We just mentioned Sano and Santana hitting the DL. Another guy that hit the DL whose season may be in jeopardy was just starting to come on. We've talked about him over the last couple episodes. Teammate of the guy whose wife is messing around with Uncle Ricola. Rubby De La Rosa has hit the DL. And I want to know what the doctor has to say about this because he really was becoming a dominant force over, his previous 4 or 5 starts. So let's see what the doctor says about Rubby.
Rubby De La Rosa, pitcher for the Diamondbacks, had a horrible outing on Thursday and led many people to believe that something was going on. Well, Friday this was confirmed where he was put on the DL list with an elbow inflammation of his right elbow. Now that's a bucket term that can mean a lot of different things, but basically it means that he is having inflammation of some of the tissues that are being aggravated by his throwing motion. The first thing that goes to your mind when you think about this is his ulnar collateral ligament or the flexor muscle mass that inserts on the inner part of the elbow, right above the ulnar collateral ligament. Now, in either of these scenarios, they are quite worrisome. If this is just inflammation alone, he should be able to bounce back in 2 to 4 weeks. But don't be surprised if this turns out to be something a little bit more serious, and as they try to bounce him back, he struggles. And if he continues to struggle throughout the course of the season, he may need a further workup, maybe an injection with PRP, or potentially the dreaded word Tommy John surgery. So we'll have to see how this goes. I am not entirely optimistic, although a lot of pitchers bounce back from elbow inflammation. We just don't know the seriousness of this yet. 2 to 4 weeks is my initial estimation, but that can change if he struggles or needs an MRI and there's more structural issues going on.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't think he should drop him just yet. That's what DL spots are for. But this is not optimistic at all. Are you frightened by this news? I mean, you were.
I don't own him anywhere. I was liking what he was doing. He was finally coming around on me. People have been asking me about this guy for 3 years. I'm glad he was finally doing something. But yeah, it doesn't sound good. I'm definitely concerned. It was nice to see him doing something. Nice to see the Diamondbacks get something out of that. I'm definitely concerned, man. I don't like what I'm hearing, and it's nice to see the doctor rolling around in the Maybach again. But it's all good to me. And yeah, that's all I got to say about.
All right. Well, as you mentioned, the doctor in the Maybach, it also looks like he's just out of surgery. So that's the kind of access we're giving you.
Somebody's life.
Yes, several lives, all at the same time. He multitasks. One table to the next. But De La Rosa, yeah, I don't think you should drop him just yet. As I mentioned, that's what DL spots are for. But if you have, couple injured players and you don't have enough spots, he might be on the fringe of being at that drop point right now. His teammate, we keep mentioning him, is Shelby Miller. He also hit the DL. So the two of them on the DL now has paved the way for Archie Bradley to make his return to the desert in the Diamondbacks rotation. Do you think that this could finally be the charm for him to nail down a position in the rotation and secure that, or is this just temporary until further notice?
Let's hope so, man. I mean, 9 Ks, went deep in the game, quality start. The Diamondbacks finally going to get something out of one of their young, high-drafted starting pitchers. Miracles do happen. Do you believe in miracles? We have one on our hands here. This is incredible. The Diamondbacks did something correctly. I am shocked, to say the least. We'd all like to have that Max Scherzer trade back. At the time, felt like I was the only one pointing it out. Like, am I taking crazy pills? Why are we trading this savage for whatever bums they got back, Edwin Jackson? To me, that was the most disgusting trade I've ever seen at the time, and then I was fully backed up from what he did in Detroit. This is disgusting. I hate these people, man. I hate the Diamondbacks. They deserve whatever they get. Shelby Miller, Rubby's now on the DL. All these guys are hitting the DL. Another wasted season in Arizona. But Archie Bradley, I'm with him all the way.
So you like what he's doing? I mean, he's going to be 24 in August. He's been really good at AAA so far this year. You mentioned it's looked good so far since he got called back up. But I'll give you the AAA numbers real quick. 5-1 with a 1.99 ERA. 10.4 Ks per 9. The walks are around 4 per game. As I said, he's just going to be 24 in August. So maybe he's going to start to turn the tide on what we've seen so far and fulfill this potential. So you're adding Archie Bradley wherever you can get your hands on him?
Yeah, I try, and I can't get him anywhere.
All right. Well, bring the doctor back. We're going to go into Erick Aybar, who has had a calamity of chaos and unfortunate things happen to him this season.
We're watching videos on Erick Aybar, man.
Yeah, and there's a reason for it.
I'm going to mute this and put on Pornhub real quick.
No, after we hear this, I'll explain the reason why we're talking about Aybar.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
Brave shortstop Erick Aybar is having a horrible early season of 2016. Back in the middle of May, he was eating, got a chicken bone stuck in his throat. He had to be sedated and have physicians remove the chicken bone out of his throat so that he could breathe, swallow, eat, live. And now he gets hit by a pitch, and he has a contusion of his right foot. Now, that shouldn't hold him back for more than 2 weeks. If it's really bad, up to 4 weeks. Now, if you see him struggle, that's when an MRI would more likely be done, and there's concerns that more concerning bones of the foot can have the contusion. But as it stands right now, 2 to 4 weeks, he should be back in the lineup, and we'll see how things go for him. This is Dr. Selene Parekh, the Fantasy Doctor.
So the reason I wanted to talk about that, other than it being slightly humorous, is because it introduces us to the Braves, who don't really have much of anything going for them at all. You mentioned the Diamondbacks. They traded Dansby Swanson, the number 1 overall pick, who was a college player, who should seemingly have a short path to the majors. Aybar was kind of, the block at short for Swanson. So does this kind of pave the way for something to happen? Daniel Castro is now standing in the way. Daniel Castro isn't much of anything. I don't know why. Go again?
I said, damn, Daniel.
I mean, I feel like CBS Sports, constantly recommends him, or at least the computer does. I don't know why. He's never been a top prospect. So there's really nothing blocking things from happening in Atlanta. Hint, hint. Swanson isn't really necessarily ready yet, but it seems like, the time is coming sooner than later. There's been a lot of talk about Trey Turner. I would start to look towards possibly adding Swanson for possibly the second half of this season. And it also brings me to a guy I want to get your take on, and that's Manny Banuelos, who might finally be healthy again. He has now had 2 starts, one at low A, which was horrible, and then over the weekend he made a start at triple A, and he looked pretty good. He only went 3 2/3 innings because he's on a pitch count. However, he did strike out 6 and only walked 1. So, as I mentioned, the Braves really have not much of anything going for them. Banuelos is still just 25 years old. He's had horrible luck, but he's been highly regarded, top prospect, good stuff. Is this somebody that people have forgotten about that you think people should be more aware of and could seemingly get to the bigs second half of this summer once he builds up some arm strength and be the lightning rod for people going into the playoffs?
That is very interesting. I mean, I want to say keep an eye on him, but nothing really to see here. Not fantasy relevant at all. But hey, if he balls out like that, I'm more worried that they're just going to monitor him so closely that they're not even going to really want to get him out there so much this year. Maybe give him a couple starts or something like that, or put him in the bullpen or give him a couple spot starts. I have no idea what they're going to do with him. But guys like this always intrigue me. So yes, you should keep an eye on him. And just watch every start. I mean, if he starts dominating down there, which, I'd say the odds are about 70-30, not in his favor. And but if he does, keep an eye on him. I mean, I'm a fan of these kind of guys. I always want them to come back. But, I mean, he's like 25 now, right? I mean, I don't know, man.
He's 25, which is still young for a pitcher. I'm not saying run out and add him now. But if you're in a dynasty league and he's out there, that's a possible place for you to add him. And if you're in a redraft league, somebody to file away in your short-term memory, because I believe this is really just a case of building some arm strength back up, and there's really nothing blocking him from getting his call to Atlanta. So, if he's going to show that he can make his starts every 5th day, once he gets some arm strength back and can go, 80, 90, 100 pitches, I think we could see him in Atlanta fairly quickly. Speaking of Atlanta, we'll just wrap up with Atlanta. I want to make mention of Malik Smith. We talked about him right before he got his call. Told you to go out and get him. He's having a pretty nice season. The average isn't necessarily there, but he's surprisingly hit for a little bit of power. He's driven in some runs. He's gotten some steals going. He's had some hot streaks, and overall he's been a decent add as an outfielder. I want to ask you your take. I got a question earlier today wanting to know, between these 3 names, who would you like rest of the season in 5x5 Roto? Danny Valencia, Matt Adams, or Adam Duvall? So I turn the table to you. Of those 3,
Wow.
would you like?
I've always been the hugest Matt Adams fan, especially before last year. I think it was that I predicted the monster season, and he became a total piece of rhino excrement. I don't respect Matt Adams, but as soon as I stop respecting him, he turns it on big time, and now he's raking again like I expected him to originally. The guy was a great hitter. But they platoon a bunch over there. Valencia, I love him against lefties. Duvall is very interesting to me, although he kind of cornholed me yesterday with the 0 for 4 in Colorado after he'd hit like 5 homers in 4 games or something like that. And so that was a little disappointing. But, God, that's tempting for me out there in Cincinnati where he probably play every day. And let's see. I mean, but there's a chance he kind of falls off. He's 26, 27 years old. Took a while to make to the majors. Can I really trust this guy? But I'm gonna take Duvall right now. I'm taking Duvall. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, and I'm going to back you up with that. So of those 3, I ruled out Matt Adams. Keep in mind, again, this is 5x5 rotisserie. I ruled out Matt Adams. So to me, it was between Valencia and Duvall. I think Valencia gives you a little bit better average. Duvall gives you a little bit better power. So between the two, which do you need more? Well, listen to these numbers for Duvall. You ready? His homer numbers going back to AAA. And all at every stop in the minors, from low A all the way to AAA. 2015, 35. 2014, 30. 2013, 17. 2012, 30. 2011, 22. I mean, this power is no fluke. He is a legit power guy. So believe in everything he's doing to this point. And, being where he is, he doesn't really have anybody pressing him for at-bats. So he's in a good spot and probably continue to count and rely on that power. So I definitely like Duvall going forward as well. You want to bring in Fox? Get some minor league updates with our minors report?
No, I do. I love me some Fox, Mulder, Billy, whatever. Here he is. Bring him in. Bring in the big dog.
Bring him in.
He's ready.
Are you ready?
No.
Hey, Tehol and Andy, I want to thank you for inviting me on. I'm going to do more of a quick hits version of minor leaguers today, and I've actually got a couple of Japanese guys as well. Shohei Otani, some people may have heard of him. He's touched 100 miles an hour. He's being compared to Yu Darvish. But I feel like a lot of fantasy players still haven't really considered him, and he may be closer than people think. There was some rumors about how he wanted to come to the United States. He ended up, signing in Japan, but he may get posted sooner than the usual 7 years that we see. So he may be making an appearance up by, sometime before 2020, maybe something like 2018. That's a possibility. And in a dynasty league, if you can pick up a guy like that, his ceiling is enormous. He could be better than Giolito. I've seen scout reports putting him at a 70. Both Kylie McDaniel and the guys over at 2080, and I've seen others putting him as high as 80. And I know Giolito's gotten those kind of grades as well. So, he's polished already. He's dominated in Japan, as well as Shintarl Fujimani, who hits 97 miles an hour, rather than 100 miles an hour, but is putting up stats, just as good as Otani. And both of these guys, I think Otani will come before Fujimani, but I think they're both possibly worth owning, or especially Otani, because I think he's closer. But I think they're both definitely worth keeping on your radar. A lot of fantasy guys don't keep the Japanese players on their radar, and I think they should. I want to talk about Amir, Garrett. He's been having a very strong start to the year. His ERA is well below 2 right now. He's an amazing athlete. He used to play basketball over at St. John's. Great athlete. Has only been pitching for a few years now. So, he was good last year. He's even better this year. I think he's made a huge step forward. He's an already top 100 prospect. So I think he's an exciting young arm for Cincinnati, as well as Cody Reed. I think he's going to be good too. So those are both guys that I think are a little bit less heralded than other Cincinnati prospects. So, but I think they may be better. So worth keeping an eye on. I want to talk about Sandy Alcantara. He's a pitcher for the Cardinals, and I think he's pretty good. I think he's recently put up a couple of 14 strikeout games. He hasn't really gotten a lot of love yet, but reminds me a lot of a guy 2 years ago that was getting some crazy strikeout numbers. Alex Reyes. So he recently got 2 60s on some scout reports from 2080 and from Baseball Prospectus. So I like to see 60 for. Anytime a prospect is showing 60 or better potential, that's a good report. So, he's someone to keep an eye on. He could be someone that gets a lot of hype in the coming months. So, and last, I want to talk about Harrison Bader. I actually have to give credit where credit is due. Michael over at Imaginary Brick Wall pegged him as a future AJ Reed before the season. So, I've actually been following him closely for the past few months just because of that, and he's really been off to a hot start this year. He has 11 home runs already, and his numbers are insane. He's batting .333, on base close to 400, and he's really doing well. He's doing that at Double-A. Double-A I think is really the first true test for any prospect. And, in some ways it's even more talent from the pitchers than over at Triple-A. It really depends on the situation, but it's a good place to be performing. So I think he may be really close to the major leagues, and he's someone that may make an appearance even this year, possibly a cup of coffee in September or next year. So I think he's a high ceiling guy. He's got a little bit of speed as well. He could be a guy like Steven Piscotty, but even better in my opinion. So from fantasy perspective, great prospect to have. So those are my quick hits. I want to thank you guys again for inviting me onto the show. Thanks.
So I just want to touch on a couple of things you said real quick before we wrap up. The foreign guys, specifically Japanese players, anybody of foreign descent. Not every dynasty league gives you the option to add them at this point. So there's a reason for that, but certainly they will be available at some point. So monitoring them and having an idea of who they are is definitely something you should be doing. Amir Garrett, of course, I know from St. John's basketball lore. I think he touches 100 miles an hour with his left-handed delivery. And I'm intrigued by Alcantara, and Bader I know is available in a lot of places. So he's a guy that you should start to look to scoop up. As Fox mentioned, Kevin mentioned, he's doing it at Double-A at this point. So good stuff. As always, hope that helps your minor league report. What do you got to say, big guy? Anything? You ready to get out of here?
I need you to forward my boy that Michael Jordan Haynes commercial about the bacon neck, dog. I got to get my homeboy on some style over there in the motherfucker in his cage over there. No offense. I'm gonna send him a shirt though. Haynes, white tee, no bacon neck. You gotta watch out for that, buddy. But other than that, great job. I loved it.
All right. Well, I think that is going to wrap things up for us for episode 10. Hope you were entertained. Hope you were enlightened. Hope you found some of this information beneficial to you. Thanks again to Fantasy Assembly. Thanks again to Rasbo. Thanks again to the people at Reddit, all you Redditors. Once again, I want to thank the guys at Fake Teams and today's Knuckleball, friends of the show. See you next week, everybody. Get your questions into us. Leave them in the comment section. We'll make sure to answer everything. Subscribe, Nickel Press TV. Subscribe to us on YouTube. There's an audio version on iTunes and Stitcher. Anything else you need to know, ask us on Twitter. We'll see you next week. Take it easy.